Okay.
Hi Ruth. So this is the first of your sessions to start the yoga practice, and today we're really going to be focusing on understanding how the body moves from a yoga context and switching on muscles that will then set us up really nicely for the yoga sequences that I can take you through in future sessions, but also for using apps like Down Dog as well. So I have a strap here. So this is a piece of fabric belt essentially, and it does have a buckle on the end. This is not essential. You can use some rope as well, whatever you have available. It just needs to have a bit of tension on it. That's all. It needs to be able to take a little bit of tension. So I have this, and also Melbourne is a little chilly now. I do have something cozy to wear for some of the more relaxing and quieter parts of the session we're going to go through. I know it's warmer where you are potentially, but you still might just want something you can put over yourself, just something that's going to make you feel cozy as well. So they're the only things that you need. And then you have a mat. So I have a mat as well. And we can get started. We're going to get started in child's pose. Child's pose is a pose that you can come to at any point during a yoga session. If you need to rest, you don't need permission to come to child's pose. You can just come into child's pose, have a rest, and come back into the session when you're ready. So we have a few options. We get started. We are kneeling. We want to make sure that our knees are pointing forwards. They're not like rolling in or rolling out. You might need to move the hamstrings so that your thighs are pointing upwards. My feet, as much as possible, are pointing up. As I come down, they're going to move, but we start with them as straight as you possibly can, so the whole of the foot is contacting evenly with the ground. And we're going to lengthen our spines, lifting up through the heart, and then inhale and exhaling as we fold forward, and we're folding from the hips. Palms touch down on the mat in front of us, and the forehead touches the mat. And once we're here, we might find as well we can just slightly lift the ribs and lengthen a little bit more, inching the fingertips forward. And feeling the breath in the back of the ribs and the stretch down the top of the spine. And allowing the sit bones to go down towards the heels. So the sit bones here, they might not quite touch the heels, or they may easily touch, but this feeling of them energetically heading here. It's a very rejuvenating pose. When we're feeling overwhelmed, we can come to this, having the contact with the floor. We can also put our arms behind us. We're going to just take 3 more breaths here. Inhaling through the nose. Exhaling through the nose, really filling up the back of the body. And letting everything go. Just finding ourselves on the mat in this moment right now. And then when you're ready, taking your arms back out in front and keeping them lifted and the hands are really active. We're going to spread each finger, so really enlivening the fingers and activating the arms. And then we're going to lift ourselves up, push up to sitting. And keeping the eyes closed, we're going to do a technique, a pranayama technique called alternative nostril breathing. So we're going to take our right hand and with our thumb we're going to gently press on the right nostril, and then with our ring finger we're going to just balance it on our left nostril, and you can place your other two fingers on your third eye in the middle of your eyebrows if you wish. And holding the right nostril closed, we're going to inhale through the left nostril, close the left nostril, and exhale through the right nostril. And then inhale through the right nostril, close the right nostril, and exhale through the left. Inhale through the left, and exhale through the right. Inhale through the right, and exhale through the left. Inhale through the left, exhale through the right. And you can keep doing this at your own pace for 10 more rounds. Alternative nostril breathing is a very grounding practice. And as we're breathing through the different nostrils, we can notice the texture of the breath as we breathe in and out. When you're finished with the 10 rounds, you can slowly blink open the eyes. And the first movement we're going to do, we're going to work on our glutes. Come to lay on your back. And we lift the legs up to 90 degrees and then just let them fall onto the mat. And this is the right hip distance and the right distance as well from the sit bones. And then we're going to lift the left arm above our head and then roll on to our left side. And we can use our left hand to prop us up. And we're staying on the side of our body as well. So we're we're making sure through this particular exercise we stay on the side of our body. The knees are bent as they were when we were laying on our back. And then we're going to lift up our legs. You can use your right hand to balance your legs, but make sure you don't roll back or roll forward. Stay centered. The feet are up off the ground and the feet are flexed as well, so they're not kind of just hanging out, they're flexed. Then we're going to lift the top leg just from the knee, close, and lift, and close. We're going to do 10 of these. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then drop the knees. Then we're going to bring the right leg, the top leg, up over the top. Everything else stays the same, so supporting with the right hand. And I'm going to make, this time I'm going to make my foot really limp like a fish, like a wet fish. And the whole of my leg is really limp and loose, and I'm just going to pulse my leg. And I can feel my glute being switched on. And then the last glute exercise we're going to do is we'll bring the left leg and the right leg up to 90 degrees. So my hips are in line, my knees are in line, and I'm still, my torso is still straight on the mat as well. So I've actually got a little space here where I'm lifted up, which is maintaining the spine, the neutrality of the spine. My knees are at 90 degrees as well, so my ankles and my knees are in line and my feet are flexed. And again, you can put your right hand in front of you and then you're just going to open the legs like a book. Down, down, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and down. And then you can give the glute a bit of a tap, and then we're gonna switch over and do the other side. So again, we're gonna come to lay on our back, feet are up to the sky, and then let them fall, checking that they're hip distance. This time my right arm goes above my head and I roll onto my right side and lift up. Torso, I'm on my ribs is contacting and my hip is contacting. And the first exercise we do is the clamshells. So my hand can be outside in front of me. With my hand, I'm going to make sure that I'm on my fingertips and I'm really engaging the muscles here, so I'm not hyperextending in any of the finger joints. So you can either have your hand flat like this or right up like Spider Woman on the fingertips. And then I'm going to lift my feet up off the mat and open the knees, keeping the feet contacted. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then drop the knees. And I take my foot out in front, let it go really limp, and then pulsing as much as you can, as quick as you can, just getting that glute muscle. You should be able to feel it here. It's starting to switch on. And the last exercise, we bring our knees up so that they're 90 degrees to our torso. The knees are in line with the ankles and the feet are flexed. And then I'm going to open my knees like a book. And I can check that my glute is working with my hand on my glute. And also a little bit of core is engaged here, just to keep the body stable as well. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so that's our glutes nicely warmed up. Can give it a bit of a tap just to loosen the muscles up. Now we're going to come back onto our laying down on our backs, and we're going to do bridge pose. Bridge pose, in my view, is one of the most powerful poses. We can learn so much about our bodies and strengthen our bodies with this pose. It's fantastic. So the first part is, again, lifting our legs up to feet, so the feet are up, the soles are pointing up to the roof, and we're just going to let the knees fall, checking that our knees and hips are in line with each other. And my knees are not rolling in, they're in line. And then I'm going to take my hands and hold onto the mat and roll my shoulders underneath my back, and this puts the shoulder blades into their correct position as well, even when standing. So the effect is like rolling the little fingers in, and the mat helps us to do this, and we can hang on to the mat as well, it can help. The next part is understanding our pelvis and the pelvic control. So in yoga, a lot of the postures, we either want a neutral pelvis, which is as I'm laying now, or we posterior tilt, which is tucking the pelvis under. So to do this, I squeeze my buttocks and tuck my pelvis underneath, and that is a posterior tilt. Or we anterior tilt, which is where I push my bum out and create a curve in my spine here. As we move in the yoga poses, we will either need to posterior tilt to tuck our pelvis, or keep our pelvis neutral, or anterior tilt. So bridge pose provides a really good way to understand the movements of the pelvis in a safe way, laying down, so that when we do the other yoga poses, we understand how this part of the body moves. When a teacher describes moving from the hip, essentially this is the area that you're moving from, and you're not doing bends from above in this area, in the waist or the ribs. It comes from the hips, and we use our pelvis to get that movement. So in the bridge pose, we're holding onto the mat, our shoulder blades are tucked under, and we push down into our feet, switching on our quadriceps, and then we tuck our pelvis under, posterior tilt, and we lift up onto our shoulders. And this is the basis for so many poses and for turning on the glutes, the quadriceps, resetting the shoulders. This is a great pose for shoulder pain, any tension in the shoulders. And we can stay here for a couple more breaths, and then to slowly roll down vertebrae by vertebrae, and we're going to tuck the pelvis under again until we come to laying down. So we'll go and do that one more time. So I push down through the feet, lift up the pelvis, tuck the pelvis under, and lift up the shoulders. And I can breathe here. And then rolling back down. So the next pose we're going to do, we've switched on quite a lot of muscles. We're going to now switch on our deep abdominals, our transverse abdominals, and this is a great way to do this. So we're staying laying on our backs. We'll lift our legs up so our soles are pointing to the sky, and my toes are coming out towards my nose. So the feet are very energized. My heels are lifted as if I was standing on the ceiling. I can hold on to the mat if I want to, or just let my hands relax out to the side. And this is quite a small movement, but it will help to strengthen the deep abdominals. And we're just gonna lift up the pelvis. And I want to go up. So my feet are actually going up to the sky. So check that this is not happening. This is not correct. We want a tiny movement to go up to the sky. And it should get everything nicely warmed up. And then when we've done 10 of those, bring the legs down. You can bring your legs into your chest and just massage that out a little bit. We're going to roll over onto our bellies and come up onto our forearms. So my hands are going to be in an L shape. My index finger and thumb are in an L, and then my other fingers are spread as well. So my thumbs are facing each other and my index fingers are facing forward. And then coming up onto my knees, I'm going to lift up onto my toes then. So I'm in a bit of a triangle. And then just pulsing backwards and forwards slowly. And I'm just strengthening my rhomboids. So that's our upper back between the shoulder blades. And this is great also for any shoulder, neck pain, upper back pain. We need to strengthen these muscles. So we can do a few more of these. And anytime you need to stop, you can just drop to your knees and take a child's pose. So we'll do a couple more, and then take a child's pose. Just rest. Come in onto all fours. So we're going to test our core. And this is an area that I want your feedback on anyway, to understand how this feels for you. So we're going to just take this one step at a time. So starting from the feet, my feet down on the mat, so evenly, and then my heels are in line with my knees are in line with my hips, and I shouldn't be able to see my feet from here if I'm in line, and my wrists are above my shoulders. I'm going to check as well that my elbow is not hyperextending and locking, and just give a little bend to it. And in this position, my back is neutral. So talking about those positions that we had in the bridge pose, if I was to posterior tilt my pelvis, then this would be a posterior tilt of the pelvis. This would be an anterior tilt of the pelvis, and this is neutral. So again, that's another way to understand the pelvic tilt. We're going to take a couple of cat-cows. Typically how this is taught is with movements in the pelvis, but we're going to do it with movements in the shoulders. So we're going to push up into the upper back and push through in the upper back and open the heart. So tuck under and push through. And we're leading through the upper back to do this. And this is less strain on the lower back and opens and strengthens the upper back as well. And one or two more. And now we're going to lift our right leg out behind us. So my foot is flexed. My knee, ankle, hip are all in one line, and my pelvis is level as well. So I'm using my glute muscle switched on, and then I'm going to reach my left arm forward and hold. And place the right hand down, place the right leg down, left arm down. And then we're going to do the other side. So we're going to lift left legs. The leg is all in one line, and the foot is as if I was standing, and my pelvis is level. And then I'm going to send my right arm in front, again in one line. And we're just working on that core stability in a pretty gentle way. You can start with just the legs and add the arms later. So from here, we're going to go into downward dog. Downward dog is a famous pose, and it's also one of the most complicated poses. So we're going to look at some basic elements of it, and it's one to keep working on. So from our tabletop, we're checking our hands, index fingers pointing forward, thumbs are facing towards each other, and the weight is distributed evenly across the palm of my hand as well. My arms are shoulder distance apart, and I'm getting the feeling like I'm rotating my armpits towards each other. Then I'm going to tuck my toes under and then lift up my knees. So I'm now hovering. And then I'm going to send my sit bones back, slowly send them back. My belly is going to come towards my thighs. I'm keeping my knees bent, and I'm going to lift my sit bones as much as I can and straighten out. My back remains neutral. And this is like an anterior tilt of the pelvis. And this maintains the neutral spine in this posture, is anterior tilting the pelvis. If I was to posterior tilt, it's actually quite hard to tuck it under. So I need to anterior tilt the pelvis so that I can create the space. And then when I'm ready, I can start to straighten the legs. And the aim of this pose is absolutely not to get the feet to the ground or to have straight legs. It's to have a straight spine, a neutral spine, protect the spine, and enjoy a beautiful inversion. Then we can relax the head. And we'll just take 2 breaths here. Then we're going to just gently walk the feet towards the hands. So between the hands, my belly is contacting with my thighs. And then I'm just going to rest over my thighs, let the head go. Hands down on the mat. Relaxing the upper body, let everything go, and sending the weight in the feet just slightly backwards. It will come forward, so just send it slightly backwards, and lift the sit bones up, but keeping the belly in contact with the thighs. So I'm just going to move back to the middle of my mat so you can see what I'm doing, but you can stay on the front of your mat. So from the forward fold, we're going to lift our arms so they're in a straight line with our back. Slightly lift the head. The fingers are rotated, the little fingers are rotated in, so thumbs are pointing up. And then from the hips, we're going to push down into the feet and lift up. Now we're going to take our strap. I'm going to just turn to face you. And if your strap has a buckle, then it's good to hold on to that end so it doesn't hit the floor. And then take your arms up above your head and take them as wide as you need to. And then you're going to lower your arms behind you. I'll also show you from this side as well. So we're going to lower our arms backwards behind us. And as we're taking the arms back, we're going to hold our core in so the ribs don't flare out like this. We're going to hold our core in, take the arms back. And we'll do 10 of these, so all the way forward and all the way back. 4, 6, 7. I'm laughing because I can hear growling tummies. 8, 9, and 10. Great. So the last thing, we're now gonna lie down. I'm going to, it's getting pretty chilly here, so I'm gonna put something warm on. And before we do our savasana, we're just gonna bring our knees into our chest, then take the knees over to the left side and the right arm out to the right, straight out, and the shoulder stays on the mat. And we can look over to our right side. And we should feel a nice twist down the back and the side. And then bring the knees back to center. Just hug them towards you. Take the knees out to the right and the left arm straight. Left shoulder is contacting the mat. And I'm getting a nice stretch down the side of my body. Bring the knees back to the chest. Savasana is the hardest pose, and the legs are apart and relaxed, slightly wider than hip distance, and my arms are palms facing up and just away from the body, but a comfortable distance. My chin isn't tucked or head's not back. My head's just placed so that the spine is neutral. And we're going to take a few moments to let our bodies go. Let everything go. Feel our feet in contact with the floor, the calves in contact with the floor, the hips in contact with the floor, the upper back in contact with the floor, the back of the hands in contact with the floor, the elbows in contact with the floor, the back of the head in contact with the floor, the face relaxed, the jaw relaxed, and the breath is moving slowly into our bellies. And we're just going to notice our breath, just watching for the next few minutes. And bringing some movement back to the body, wiggling the toes, touching the fingertips with the thumbs. Take a deep breath in and exhale through the mouth. Keep the eyes closed. You can bring the knees into the chest. And then roll over onto your side. Take a couple of breaths here. Keep the eyes closed, push up. Using the right arm to push you up and just come to a seated position. And when you're ready, blinking, open the eyes. Thanks for joining me today.